Good morning and welcome to Wellspring. My name is Jim Moore and I'm part of your Sunday, November 28th, 2021 service team. Now we will have a few announcements. Early Birds meets Sunday morning at 9:30 via Zoom, and the link is on the website and in the weekly email. We're currently discussing Edward Tully's The Power of Now, and it's been quite a good conversation. Upcoming speakers. Next. Okay, I know what they are, even if they're not on there. Edward will be speaking on both the 5th and the 19th, no, the 5th and the 26th. Reverend Kamatara will be back on the 12th. Peggy will be here again on the 19th. And on the 24th, we're going to have a combined service with the other New Thought churches in town. The Mesilla Valley Chorale is going to have their Christmas concert on December 12th at 3 p.m. at the Rio Grande. Tickets are $10, and Edwin has tickets and Judy has tickets. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request on our webpage. The prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. And now we'll have an invocation. As Thanksgiving week brings it to our attention so well, let us start by being grateful. Grateful for such a beautiful southern New Mexico day. Grateful that we are here to experience it together. And grateful that we are alive. We are all connected to the divine, and that is also our connection to each other. As we acknowledge the soothing presence of Spirit in this space, we know that Spirit is everywhere and in all things. We know that we can be most in tune with Spirit when we make the time to quiet our minds and simply feel the breath of Spirit touching our cheek or our hand. As we do this now, let us affirm that we will remember to make this a habit. We can feel the breath of Spirit energizing and empowering us periodically throughout each day. It just takes a few moments of calm, relaxed, deep breathing. We display our gratitude for the presence of Spirit in our lives by our smiles and the kind way we treat all of our fellow creatures, human and otherwise. Let us each shine our light and share our truth, not just in the upcoming week, but let's intend to make it a habit that can change our lives forever. With deep gratitude, we say, and so it is. Now for our song of joy.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I
may be seated, and we will repeat together our vision, our mission, and our affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: I recognize the presence of the one loving source, expressing as me, as you, as this beloved community. We are connected in the one heart, one mind, one love. As I know the best and highest good for myself, I know it for Wellspring too. All is in divine right order. Life is rich and fulfilling. We are blessed to share this sacred adventure together. And now we're going to have some special music. Looks like Melody Burns is here.
I know many of you here are like me, doing lots of journaling. And especially in the season of Thanksgiving, I find myself journaling even more about gratitude and all I am grateful for. Thank you. I find myself journaling a lot about all that I am grateful for during the season of Thanksgiving. And one of those things I'm grateful for is music. I'm so grateful for Barry. I just love hearing him play. We are so fortunate to have him. And it also brings to mind a song that my sister Sherry Nash wrote with a friend of hers named Mike Wall many years ago. It's called God Made Music. God made music and then made man, touched our throats with a mighty hand. God made man that we might sing and to the world our offering bring. What would it be like without a song, without God's voice all the day long? There's music in the forest, in every tree, and in the humming of each little bee. There's music in the fire, in the crackling of the wood, made for us as only God could. Here for us and everyone, for man to sing when work is done. God made a melody for us to hear, the sounds of living, sweet to his ear. I can hear it, can't you, my friend, from the crack of dawn until the day's end. Songs of wisdom of men who died, songs of laughter and those
Thank you very much. That was, wow. My reading this morning comes out of 365 Days of Science of Mind, and it's about Thanksgiving. The attitudes of praise and thanksgiving are salutary. I had to look up that word, and healthy is a good definition. They not only lighten the consciousness, lifting it out of sadness and depression, they elevate consciousness to a point of acceptance. Praise and thanksgiving are really attitudes of recognition. They are affirmations of the divine presence, the divine abundance, and the divine givingness. It is only when we live affirmatively that we are happy. It is only when we recognize that the universe is built on affirmation that we can become happy. Today, through praise and thanksgiving, I recognize the divine presence in everything. In the midst of darkness, I will sing a song to the dawn, for I know that the eternal light dissipates all darkness. Today, I will recognize the beautiful and the perfect in everything. I will call it forth with praise and thanksgiving, blessing the spiritual reality back of all things. And as Meister Eckhart once said, if the only prayer you say in your entire life is thank you, that would suffice. And now I would like to introduce our speaker, Peggy. Come on up.
Good morning. Well, I see from the group here this morning that, yeah, this got to go, I guess, right? Thank you. I told myself I would put that down when I got up here, and then I lost track of what I was going to do. Anyway, what I was going to say is that I see from the group here that, and the decorations that we're like overlapping all of the holidays. And I heard from talking to Melody earlier that today is first day of Hanukkah and first day of the Advent calendar. And so we're here for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, the celebration of lights. We're just going to let it all hang out and do it all. So those of you who are dressed for Christmas, I didn't get that memo, but I will be here Christmas Eve, I guess, or the 19th with Christmas stuff on maybe. Anyway, I appreciate your presence here, whatever you're wearing, and know that it's just perfect. However, that needs to work out. I need to bring a bottle that has the sippy cup top on it. I can't get this back on. Anyway, I'll just set that down unless I need it again. I have just come back from my Thanksgiving holiday in Albuquerque, which is one of the reasons that I am back in the States, is to see my family and do that, and had the extra bonus of being able to attend my son-in-law's, my coach son-in-law's championship 6A football game yesterday, which they won. So that was an extra bonus, yeah. They are now at 22 undefeated games in a row. And so it was a big celebration for all of them and me to be there. It's the first time I've actually been in Albuquerque when the championship game was held. They'd played a number of times in almost every year in the last 5 years since he's been one of the coaches there. They've been in the finals. But the last time I went to a championship game, they lost. I think it was here in Cruces. Anyway, so that was good. But I had a little trouble with my truck. Some of you might have heard that that I was stuck up there a little bit on the holiday weekend without a mechanic, and got all that taken care of. God is good all the time. I mean, it was, my intuition told me, don't take that truck, but I didn't listen. So the rest of the story of how I got it all taken care of, I listened to my intuition quite well because I was trying to take that lesson in. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk with you about today. We're going to talk about gratitude. Thank you for your reading. That was just perfect as always, Edward. And the I Am So Blessed. I was thinking, I hope they know some Karen Drucker songs about gratitude. We got one. So I'm happy about that too. But I want to talk to you about consciousness. You did mention that in your reading here about gratitude and consciousness, and that is certainly one of the elements that I think helps to build and evolve consciousness. I have a bigger umbrella that I want to try to cover things under as well. So the title of my talk is Do You Mind? And I want to use that word mind as both a verb and a noun. Now we're used to hearing this like, would you mind doing this? Or could you mind the business while I'm out? Or could you mind the kids? Or are you lofty minded? We have different kinds of cliches, I guess you would call them maybe, that we use around the word mind. Somewhat mindlessly, I would say sometimes. Anyway, I started thinking about this concept of the mind and consciousness earlier this week. The benefits of technology and Zoom. Even though I'm in the States, I'm still teaching one of the classes that I do down in Mexico on Zoom. It happens to be one in Spanish. And so we are reading a book, like you guys are doing your book study on Eckhart Tolle right now, on The Power of Now, which is a terrific seminal book of his. We're reading the seminal book by Marianne Williamson, Return to Love. And we were in a chapter this past week that talks about, where Marianne made this comment that our actions don't really count. It's the consciousness behind them that is what really counts. So I put this to the class as a little bit of a dilemma. What do you think about this? Is it, consciousness more important than the action, or, however? So we sort of came up with a compromise that it's really both, that the consciousness behind the act certainly is important, but the act itself can be very important, sometimes critical. And that our examples that we set by the things we do, say, be, are oftentimes a part of how we help others with their consciousness, whether it's we done them wrong or we did something good or whatever. It's going to change their thought process about it too. So there's a woman in the class who's a student of the Course in Miracles, and she often says this one line, and she said it in the class, and this is really what got me off on the topic for today. She said that she always tries to remind herself that she wants to see with the eyes of God. She wants to love with the heart of God, and she wants to think with the mind of God. And I thought, I've heard her say that, a number of times, but hearing her say that in response to this thing about actions versus consciousness or whatever, kind of set it off in a little bit of a different texture for me. And I thought, thinking with the mind of God, the consciousness. And I remembered, I don't even know if this is true, because I have since heard that there are a number of things that are attributed to Einstein that he never did say. But I don't know where I read this or heard this many years ago, that Einstein said that he wanted to think like God thinks. And I don't know if that is really a true quote from Einstein or not, but I think it's pretty admirable aspiration for any of us, really, to have that think with the mind of God would be the same thing as thinking the thoughts of God. So this idea of the verb and the noun, I wanted to add one more cliche, if you've never heard it before, that I'm fond of saying is mind your mind. Because we are so susceptible to all of what comes at us that if we don't, this is my belief about it, that if we don't guard our psyche, if we don't pay attention to what's in there already, sometimes displace or replace what's in there already, and then fill that void with something we've chosen consciously, rather than just let the next thing come in at us. And it just seems to me, I don't know if I'm the only one in the room or not, but right now it just seems to me that there is so much coming at us in the last, handful of years, and especially in the time with the COVID. So much information, so much whatever. We had a convention from the Convention of the Americas on Zoom in 2020, because we couldn't have it live at all. And David Bruner, Dr. David Bruner, who is the center director in San Jose, California, some of you may know him or may have heard of him. He gave his talk that convention on how to determine what source you want to choose to use for your news. And when he told me this is what he's going to talk about, I thought, but it was excellent, and it was very, very much science of mind in terms of how he did it. And so it's stuck with me there too. Of course, I've never chosen any other source of news for 30 years, 40 years maybe, than NPR. So I didn't have the dilemma that he was presenting that a lot of people have, where they're on Facebook or they're doing all the social media stuff in addition to reading the newspapers or the magazines. It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to sort through. And guarding our psyche is an important part of holding the consciousness that we have and not losing ground with it. I think consciousness is an evolutionary process. You know, there are many people in New Thought or New Age thinking who say that consciousness is an energy, and that they kind of draw the equal sign there between consciousness and energy. I don't think that consciousness equates to energy or energy equates to consciousness. Either way, I do think they're correlated. They're correlative, though, that when we have a certain consciousness, we have a certain energy. And we have a certain vibe that we're either taking in or putting out. And that's a part of the whole element for me of what it is involving in taking a conscious look at our consciousness and deciding, I want to grow it. I want to expand it. I want to be more of a light being than I am. Ernest Holmes taught us in one of his final talks, the Sermon by the Sea, that science of mind is always going to be reinventing itself. Not only because the movement itself, but that the movement is made up of all the practitioners of the philosophy of science of mind. And if we stay open at the top, what he said in the Sermon on the Mount is, if we stay open at the top, shorn of dogmatism, that's kind of an archaic term, and ready for more enlightenment, ready for more illumination. This is the word he used, ready for more illumination. So I like to think of that as that, you know, we don't allow that dogma in. We guard our psyche from getting wrapped around the dogmatism of what I call our starter church, maybe, or what's being talked about even in the media, that we are not going to be susceptible to the dogmatism. And we're just going to stay open and allow ourselves to let more light in and allow ourselves to expand our consciousness. But there's still the question of, you know, kind of like, how do you go about doing that? Well, I do believe that there's this connection between the feel, think, feel, and what I'll mention as a reference to our friend Sandy Scott, that we learn as we learn the little song that she used to attach to this. It's doobie doobie doo. We do, we be, we do, we be, we do, we be. And this is how we bring together the integration in our own consciousness that is a part of the great one mind, that I'm going to mention to you about that too, that Ernest talks about that we are learning as we're doing, as we're being, and this is part of that whole dance that we're doing as we're evolving our own consciousness within our own personality, within our own energy, within our own vibration. All of that is wrapped up together as far as I'm concerned. But it oftentimes is about replacing what's there, or being more conscious of what's there to begin with, to decide. Because, you know, one of the things that I teach about the elements of what we find in our subconscious that are running our lives unconsciously, is we can't, this positive affirmative living that that Jim was talking about in the reading is only possible if we are staying positive. So I think the way we get the positive outlook that comes from the feeling of gratitude that you were talking about when you were in the reading there is we have to have a positive in-look, you know, because what's inside is what comes out. And if we're not able to see there what's inside in order to shift that or change that or make a conscious decision around it, it's probably still going to continue to run our lives. So for me, there are several things that I think are important as we go through this idea around how do we get to improving or expanding our consciousness. But first I want to read you what Ernest has to say about there is only one mind. There's no such thing as your mind or my mind or even God's mind. There is only one mind in which we all live and move and have our being. Things are ideas in form. Ideas in form. What else could they be? There is nothing from which to make things except ideas. In the beginning, we behold nothing visible. We don't see anything. There is only an infinite possibility, excuse me, a limitless imagination, a consciousness. The only action of this consciousness being ideas. That which we call our subjective mind is in reality our identity, our personal identity with the infinite mind. It is the result of our mental attitudes. Are we positive or negative? It is our mental atmosphere or center in the universal subjective mind in which we are all retained and have all the images, the impressions, the inherited tendencies, the race suggestions, and we see that our subjective mind is the medium through which these experiences come to us. The doobie-doobie-doo. That's how it comes through us. So this is what Ernest, I think, is trying to say, that our mind is important as a part of the great mind, the one mind. So what I do, what you do, what any of us does to change our consciousness, to change our thinking, to change our lives, as we say in our motto, sort of Science of Mind, is going to be salutary for everybody, not just us. And to get into the idea of how you get there, and then I want to circle back around to gratitude, because I do want to get to that part. But the one I was thinking about it, I'm thinking really the building of consciousness is a daily practice, a moment by moment practice, actually, you know, when you really get right down to it. I might have to get a cough drop out, sorry. I'm back in Las Cruces, the allergies are back. But I have to scroll through all this that I just read to you from Ernest to get back to where I wanted to have that thing. So when it's in there and it needs to be replaced, so it's to be present in the moment. This is what Eckhart Tolle is, I'm sure, writing about in the book that you're reading. Any part of that book is about be here now. Excuse me. And while we're in that present moment, be as conscious as we can about what's going on inside of us, outside of us. You know, I always say that the moment isn't for me to see what's in it for me. The moment is for me to see what's in me for it. And if I'm not able to bring to that moment, like what the Course in Miracles calls the presence of the alternative, or the light, in other words, you know, can I bring my light to this moment, or am I like stuck in it with everybody else? You know, I don't want to be, you know, I want to be guarding my psyche better than that. I want to be able to handle that moment in a level that I'm not taken away by it, that I'm there present for it. And in that present moment, we'll see later, because I believe very much this is a part of the 12-step program too, but I believe that another daily practice that's good for us to have is to take a look back at our day at the end of the day and see, how did that go? Or as maybe as we've heard said before, how's that working for you? And then to realize, okay, I wasn't maybe the highest level of child of God in that moment. Maybe I even owe somebody an apology or an amends, and I need to clean up my side of the street. And these are all things that I believe help me grow my consciousness into that higher level of illumination or elevation or enlightenment that Ernest was talking about there, that we're open to allowing that to come to our attention and our awareness and do something about it. Doobie-doobie-doo, you know. But sometimes I think we get looking back too far. I just want us to sort of review the day, because I think it's true that the farther you look back, the more your neck hurts. And that's probably not a good practice. So too much rehashing and rehearsing and recrimination, and that's not what I'm talking about here at all, really. I'm talking about being somewhat of an objective observer of your life. You know, as Deepak Chopra would say, the observer observing the observed. And therein we are able to allow something to come in that might not have entered our psyche otherwise because we're too resistant to it or we're too habituated against it for it to come in. But opening our mind to reveal these things is the healing. We also learn in Science of Mind, and Ernest mentions this a number of times in the book, that there is no real healing, there is a revealing, and that the revealing has to come first. And this is a part of, I think, what Jim's reading is talking about when it says that the gratitude attitude gets you to the place of acceptance. Because the place of acceptance is really the only place you can change from. That's the power of now, right? If you can't accept in the moment whatever it is that's going on, you cannot expect to be able to change it. So we expand from that consciousness. And the other practice that I think is good is that every day in the morning, start your day off as Marianne Williamson preaches too, that 5 minutes in the morning with God takes care of the day. If we just practice that. And to have that practice of reading something, listening to something, nowadays watching a YouTube video, whatever it might be, that is inspirational for you. And it just takes 5 minutes to do. And then you can meditate on that, and you can take that meditation with you throughout your day as you reflect back on whatever it was that you started the morning with. Now I have to speak like Demosthenes. You know who Demosthenes was? The guy that had to learn to be the orator by having rocks in his mouth so that he could speak and learn to speak around them. It's kind of like what we're doing now with the masks, right? Trying to learn to speak to be understood through the mask. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Sharon. I guess I was coughing more than I realized. Thank you for bringing that to my consciousness. And that's the way I want to do things in my life too, is to say thank you for everything. Whatever shows up, however it looks like. So you go to that meditation throughout the day of whatever it was you started with in the morning, and that becomes kind of like your little mantra. If you don't have a mantra that you're already doing, that's the mantra. Or the mantra is just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. The only prayer you ever need is the thank you, thank you, thank you throughout the day. Whatever shows up, however it shows up, be grateful. And I like to say out loud, thank you, God. That helps, get it through my brain a little bit better, that it's not just felt or thought, that it's also heard and internalized. So these daily practices of listening and reading and watching something inspirational, meditating on it. And then as you go about your day, practice kindness with everyone. The clerk in the store that you don't even know, what does your consciousness look like to that person? Can you practice kindness no matter what? That's tough, no matter what. The unconditional love part of that is what I have to ramp myself up to sometimes just before I go in the grocery store, because I'm not maybe in the right mindset. I just want to go in there and get what I want and just get out of there and just, not bother anybody or have anybody bother me or whatever. And I have to think about it when I get to the cashier's register, which I really still insist on doing. I'm not learning the scanners. Not yet. Because I want an interaction with a person. I want to be able to have that connection, whatever brief moment it might be for, or however it might show up. That's the kindness to everyone. I love the place where I live down in Mexico. When I'm there, people actually speak to strangers on the street. Hi, how are you? Hola, buenos dias. That kind of thing. We've lost that a lot, I think, in our culture, especially after, we've been cooped up for a couple of years here. But as back to the gratitude is the other practice. I'm so glad Melody mentioned journaling, because that's one of the things that I wanted to suggest, is the gratitude journal is so excellent a tool. If you've never kept one or never thought about keeping one, I definitely suggest that maybe between now and all the way through the end of the year, just for 30 days, we can do almost anything for 30 days, no matter how much we think it's troublesome to us, if we want to. And the payoffs are what Jim was talking about in his reading, in part, that you get the feeling that comes with being grateful, that is a permeation of the whole body, mind, spirit individual, we're going to get that. There's a lot of studies out there about people who practice gratitude in relationship to the normal people who don't or whatever. That it's there's scientific studies that when you're grateful and when you're in that moment of gratitude and thankfulness and thanksgiving, that you actually are stimulating those feel-good hormones, the oxytocin, the serotonin. I mean, do we want that? Like, as instead of the cigarette or the drink those are the same things that stimulate those same hormones in us that the sugar, for me, the addictions are. And maybe a little more gratitude and a little less whatever, might be part of that solution. And there are also studies that show that people who are grateful and practice gratitude have more of a, social interaction that's positive. They have less stress. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to be had from practicing gratitude, it sounds like, that have been proved up scientifically. So I wanted to tell you about another thing that has the word mind in it, and I don't know if any of you have heard of this or not, but I discovered this a few years ago when I saw her interviewed on a webinar with Deepak Chopra. Goldie Hawn. Remember Goldie Hawn, the Laugh-In girl that went on to, many other things after that, but that's how she got her start. About 20 years ago now, I guess it's probably been, she started a foundation that she wanted to have activity directed at children because she was so upset about the kind of like the teenage suicide and depression rate that was growing pandemically, because there is a contagion almost with kids, the depression and suicide, and copycat suicide. That was part of what was really happening when she started this. So she began this foundation with money she was earning in the movie business, and it's called Mind Up. And you can check it out if you wish to, but she started with the school systems and the grade schools primarily, and middle school. And I think now they've got things out there on Zoom that are available for anybody that you can go to the website. If you're a teacher or if you're a homeschooler or if anything, if you've got kids in your life, a youth group of any kind, that she's got a lot of material there and a lot of meditation, a lot of stuff. But a lot of the work that they do with the meditation is based on cultivating gratitude and cultivating the attitude of gratitude in children, and suggesting, like that they sit around their dinner table with their family, if they get to do that kind of thing, with a sharing each day of what they're grateful for. In the classrooms, they set the kids up in circles and they have a little gratitude rock or talking stick that they'll go around and talk about what their gratitude is, just to practice, doobie doobie doo. And that has been, I think, very successful, and I'm sure that there have been a lot of children's lives who have been improved, if not radically changed. And what happens too, of course, they say, is that what they see happen, the kids go home and they change their parents because it's such a a way in the back door. You can't get parents a lot of times to come to something that you would try to teach them how to teach their kids about gratitude because they're not ready for it themselves. But the children can bring along the whole family into something like that. So the Mind Up was another thing that came to my mind when I was first thinking about mind, and I thought, well, that the gratitude, it all ties in. I'd like to invite you to have a little bit of a gratitude experience with me here that is part of what is taught to these children in a simple fashion as a daily practice that they could take on, where they give them 3 things or 3 elements to think about their gratitude around. And this calm place that you were referring to in the reading, Jim, or no, it was in your invocation maybe. I might have it cross-wired about being in a calm place and taking a minute or 2 to relax and pull that down. If you could just take a minute here, a couple seconds to relax, and I'll just invite you to have some gratitude thoughts around these 3 topics. So we just breathe in deeply and allow ourselves to be in the chair, be present in this moment, and know how grateful, grateful, grateful we are. And please bring to your mind a person. It could be anybody in your family, in your life, the cashier at the grocery store that I talked about, anyone, it doesn't have to be anybody you even know. And think about how grateful you are for them. And just feel that feeling. This is a feeling action process too. And now would you turn your mind and your thought to the gratitude that you have and the appreciation that you have for nature. What is it about nature that you are so grateful for today? Someone mentioned this beautiful southern New Mexico weather. I'm grateful for that. And now bring to your attention some activity in your life, something that either you wanted to be doing or you are doing or you have done that brings you joy, that you're grateful for. And now whenever you're ready, just open your eyes and come back into the room. And notice, check in. Do you feel a little bit lighter, a little bit happier, a little bit jazzed up? Okay, good. So I want to close with that, and I want to remind you that, in Science of Mind, we talk about changing your thinking to change your life. And I think that one of the adages that I picked up, I think it was in some guy in the movie in The Secret, that stuck with me, that what you think about and what you thank about is what gets anchored into that change in your system. So that feeling that you just felt from gratitude is the feeling that you want to be looking for and feeling all the time. So let's just thank all the time, pray thankfulness all the time, and get that hormone up, change our consciousness, heal the world, all of that. Go forth and doobie-doobie-doo. Namaste. So now, in your applause, I could maybe cough over that. Now it's time for the spiritual mind treatment. So I invite you once again to take that feeling of gratitude that you are feeling right now and just keep holding that, just keep anchoring that in your consciousness as we open ourselves to the recognition that we are the consciousness. We are the consciousness that is the one mind. We are the collective members of that consciousness, the individual identity, as Ernest said. And we recognize that there is one mind, one life, one spirit, and that life is my life and your life now. And as we breathe that in with gratitude, the gratitude for knowing that this is how it is, this is how it works, and this is the thing itself, we accept and understand and appreciate our part in it. That it is all of what we are, but we are a part of it. And our role in our playing the part is in evolving our consciousness for our health and that of the world and the people on it, the planets, the universe. We find what it is ours to do. And we take care of that little corner of the Great One. We move forward in this appreciation. We leave here today thankful and appreciative of all, because we know that what we appreciate appreciates in our lives, and what we focus on will grow. And as we focus on this attitude of gratitude permeating our life on a daily basis, we're just so busy being thankful nothing else can bother us. And even then, if we notice a little bit of bother, we're thankful for it. And we move into the gratitude step of our treatment. Just breathing in that depth of love, the unconditional love that we feel when we feel grateful. And we're so grateful for this philosophy, for the tools that it provides, for the books and the learnings that we have available to us to live and learn from. As we expand and are ready for being more and more open at the top, more elevated, more illuminated, and in some respects, more eliminated in order to have space for that as we do and be and do and be. And I just release these words into the law, knowing that as they are spoken, it is done, it is so. We are it. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. I did owe the allergies. The voice comes and goes. So thank you. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for that wonderful message. When I heard your topic, I totally shifted what I was going to do for the second piece.
Oh, cool.
So there we go. We'll see.
That happens sometimes.
It does. It happens often. Yay.
Listening to our intuition.
Exactly.
Is your mic on?
It is.
Is mine off?
I believe it is. As many of you know, my husband Bob Burns was a big jazz and big band fan. And one of the folks he loved was Duke Ellington. Now, Duke Ellington had a very well-known song called I've Got It Bad and That Ain't Good. And the more Bob studied New Thought and new ways of being and thinking, he thought, I need to write a new song. So what he came up with is, I've got it good, and that ain't bad. This is written in 2004, and there's actually a little nod to this congregation in it. Before I start, my apologies. I have to say my apologies. I'm going to be glued to this music because I'm used to singing harmony and I'm trying to stay on the melody. Okay, so here we go again. Take two. I've got sunrise in the morning and the moonlit night. Deep blue skies, pure clouds of white. I've got happiness and love, no reason to be sad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. I've got music all around me for the soundtrack of my life. Up pops a wellspring, bringing forth the light. All this going on, how can I be mad? I've got it good, and that ain't bad. That's going to be your part when it comes around again. I grab for stars around me. I reach them when I can. For when the Duke gets positive, love walks hand in hand. Got music all around me for the soundtrack of my life. Up pops a wellspring, bringing forth the light. All we have to do is take them and be glad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. The flowers and the trees and the buzzing of the bees, God's good gifts are here for you and me. All we have to do is take them and be glad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. I've got apricots and kumquats as far as you can see. Sunshine in my soul, amazing grace embraces me. The good life comes into a heart that is glad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. I've got mountains and the valleys and the trees with leaves so green. I live in paradise, my inner self has really seen that negativity really isn't rad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. Matters of the mind around us scatters in the wind. Matters of the mind around us scatters in the wind. What matters should surround us, peace can bring it in. I've got birds and bugs and multicolored flowers. I can take them in at any old hour. This has stood the test of time. It's not just a fad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. I've got it good, and that ain't bad. Woohoo!
Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I remember hearing Bob sing that many times. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We are grateful for their service, and we thank you for joining us today. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after service to visit, or join us in the social hall, or a little bit of both. Please stand, and we will say our benediction, followed by the peace song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature, and flow through us into the world, and so it is.
Baby,